y'all. We're gonna do the beach wave tutorial. So Emily has, this is like what, day 4 or 5?
There's quite a few things.
Quite a few little treats in there. So we're gonna start with just the, some of the dry shampoo. Don't have to go crazy. And get it in there at the root. There's no point in putting it on the ends. Okay, and the biggest thing is it doesn't have to be like all perfectly straight. It can have all these kinks in it because the messier the better. I think the biggest thing with beach waves is people think it has to be perfectly sectioned and curled, and that's just not how it goes. So you're gonna pick up whatever you can see, and the front pieces go away from the face, and then after that we can alternate directions. So I think this guy's probably like an inch, inch and a half. The size of the barrel doesn't really matter, but the bigger the barrel, it's harder to do on short hair. And she doesn't have short hair.
No, I don't.
No, she does not.
No, I do not.
Okay, so we're gonna start in the middle, and we're going to twist the whole time, and don't really stop moving, and then unwind as we go and twist, and then leave that last little bit out. And then it looks weird like that, and it doesn't look like there is mesh, and that's on purpose. So we're gonna leave it and let it cool. You never wanna run your fingers through it the whole time because it doesn't get to cool that way. I'm gonna unwind and keep pulling it down, and that last little bit I just pull straight through like that. And that kind of helps to keep the end a little straighter. But yeah, there's no rhyme or reason to the sections other than the front sections. You just want to keep those away from the face. But then now that I'm past the face, I'm going to go the other direction. Everybody complains about the kinks, and the kink is usually from too hot of an iron, or the fact that you don't clamp down too hard right at first. As long as you keep it moving, it's a lot easier to work with. And the more imperfect it looks, probably the better it'll look at the end. Because when it's too perfect is when it looks like you're going to the prom.
I thought I was.
I thought I was. You totally can if you want. Pick yourself up a nice 18-year-old. Head on over. It goes electric wavy when I turn. Okay, and the back of your own head is hard to do, but the big thing is when you lean over and you pull forward whatever you can see. And you don't have to, try and stretch too far. Just keep it on the sides of your head by just pulling pieces forward. Turn it on. So then I'm unwinding and moving down the hair shaft and pulling the end straight. Off from my city, off from my home. Okay, unwinding. We're flying up no ceiling when.
Oh, wow.
You probably should sit in for this tutorial. We in our zone. I got that sunshine.
Featuring.
This is some day 4 hair right in here.
I told you.
There are some treats.
I said you're gonna want to whip it out.
That's right. So yeah, like this looks like nothing, and that's how it's supposed to be. Oh, and one thing too, a common mistake is not having dry enough hair. It's like you rough dry it, and then you assume you're gonna start curling right away, but a rough dry doesn't fully take the moisture out. Yeah, so like that's pretty good. There's not much in there, but that's gonna be plenty. And especially the underneath stuff. It's gonna be mostly hidden. Don't spend too much time doing it. So we twist up and then we unwind. And so you're never really fully like letting go of the hair until you're pulling it through the very end. And so like if it looks like a corkscrew twisted, that's perfect. Because it's gonna cool that way, and then when we brush through it, it'll look beachy. Oh, don't spray hairspray first. Everyone's like, oh, I put hairspray on first. That you don't want to melt that stuff into your hair. There's other sprays that you can spray on first. Like if Emily's hair was pretty clean and like slippery, I would use this stuff, Beyond Body. It's like a sealing spray. I could spritz some of that in there too, just to give it some grip through the with the curling iron, but there's plenty of grip in the hair right now. And depending on your texture of hair, some people's hair holds better when it's dirty, and some people's hair holds better when it's clean, so it just depends. Emily's naturally curly, so it'll hold really well when it's clean. It hasn't been like straightened over or whatever. Yeah, So we've got, like, that's just a funny looking curl, but that's what you want. So now we just have this half left. So we're going pretty fast. Some unwinding, moving farther down, and at the very end I'm pulling this nice and straight. So this one I'm going to go forward with because it's just kind of random. Unwind. So you're kind of like spinning it backwards as you're going down the hair shaft, but this last like 3 inches that's straight, that's what you want. That's what ends up looking beachy, is when it's not curled all the way to the end. And if it's too weird to, you know,
It probably is.
just do it with the one hand, if you want to guide the hair through, then you can hold it through while you're spinning down. So you can grab this, and that way you don't like lose your spot. Okay, so now that we're this close to the face, I might go a little lower so that the curl doesn't, it starts at like eye level rather than like way up here. And I'm doing these away from the face. And one of the reasons we alternate directions is so that they collide with each other and stay curled. Because if you do them all the same direction, then they kind of marry together and make one big wave. So whatever I can see, that's the pieces that I'm pulling out. I'm not doing like specific sections. I'm just whatever looks like it needs a curl, that's what I'm picking up. And drag it down through the ends. That kind of does some of the straightening for you too. So if it's like too kinky at the end, then that pulling the curling iron through helps to straighten that some. But you can also grab a flat iron at the very end and like run it over everything. And I think the thing to remember is that when you're doing beach waves, you're not going for curl as much as you're going for texture. You're not supposed to get like perfectly curled hair. Okay, so this is a good example. So this, the curling iron, I dropped it like before I could drag it through, and so this end is like way curlier than I would have liked. So I didn't get to pull it kind of straight and stringy. So I would have, what I would probably do at the end, this won't make that big of a difference, just this one, but if I had a lot like that, I would take my flat iron and run it over the very ends at the end of this. So now that she's got this as like the base of it in there, so like if this is where we're at, okay, so now I'm gonna take, this stuff is bomb. This is the Volumizing Fix hairspray. So it's such a good combination between like a hairspray and like a beach spray. It's really lightweight. It's not stiff. You can run your fingers through it, but it does give you like that texture hold, so you can like keep scrunching it the rest of the day.
And it smells delicious.
Oh, it smells so good. And so you don't want to hold it too close to her, but you can apply it pretty liberally because it's not heavy. Okay, so then once I've sprayed all that stuff through, now I kind of can take my fingers and run it through. And that kind of widens it out a little bit and makes it, it takes out some of the stringiness. And then this stuff is called Super Dust, and it does the teasing for you, so you don't have to actually take a back comb and like go to town. You could do that, I suppose, but you can kind of like underneath lift some of that hair up and then get it, you just tap a little bit of it in there and then kind of use your fingers and rough it up, and then that kind of helps dry some of the oil too and then give it a little bit of grip. So then when you actually like do this to your hair all day, it actually works.
What oil?
What oil? And then you can kind of pull this Super Dust too like away from the hair too and kind of like puff it into the hair, and then that gives it like a lot of like that saltwater, like the beachy look. Yeah, so like if I look at this piece by itself, this is kind of like a dud, but with everything, it all makes sense and matches. And so you don't want to get hung up on each specific piece. Like, you can always touch it up at the end, but the whole point is getting texture in there. So there she goes. So that's super beachy back there, when before it was that high bun that we just took out and really quick did something quick. All done. So just dance, 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 come on. Ooh, it's something magical.
rushing on. I don't need no reason, don't need control. I fly so high, no ceiling when I'm in my zone. Cause I got that sunshine in my pocket.